Hello, Nino. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Fantastic. And you're Ethan?
Yep, I'm good, thank you.
Good. Thank you guys for talking to us. We're going to have a bit of fun, and we're going to find out more about what you think about certain subject. It's Halloween today, so apparently the Celtic Druids used to believe that during this period, the dividing line between life and death is at its thinnest. Some of them used to believe, and in fact probably all of them, that when you die you reincarnate, you come back as something else. What do you think happens after someone dies?
See, I kind of have a bit of a muffled view about what happens when you die, because I don't believe that your consciousness can kind of just disappear, and I'd like to believe that you would become something else, whether you get sucked up into the ground and become part of nature, or even reincarnation, I don't know, but your consciousness can't just disappear and it goes somewhere.
So for you, you continue to exist?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether you come back or not, it doesn't matter, you continue to exist?
Yeah, so like whether you die or not, you're still somehow around.
Would people call that spirit? Some people would refer to that as a spirit as far as you're concerned?
Yeah, absolutely.
It could be that.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, Ethan, what's your opinion?
I believe that when you die, like religion, it's nice to find out some way to you go to heaven. That's like what you learn in school. That I guess it's in a way to stop the fear of death itself. But I believe that when you die, I don't think there is some way of like heaven or hell. I just think it's just some way to make people sort of behave in a certain way that they should, that is acceptable to society. But I don't think like spirits and stuff exist. I just think if someone's still alive in your memory, that's what's important. So as long as they have made an impact in someone's lives.
So Ethan, you're exactly the opposite of Nino.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Are you sure you're good friends?
We are good friends.
Yeah, but see, right, the thing is, you brought religion into that. Like, I'm not religious at all. And when I say I believe you carry on, it is kind of similar to what Ethan means. Is I don't particularly believe in a heaven or a hell. I never have, I don't think I ever will. But I just believe that, in a sense, you will carry on through, the earth around you, through nature, and through the memories of, what you've built. Your legacy carries on. So kind of a bit of everything. But in terms of like an afterlife, I don't believe in that at all.
So Nino makes a good point here. He's saying that you brought heaven and hell into this, and to keep people in check and stuff like that. But he's saying, what does that got to do with anything? Do you exist or do you not exist afterwards? He cornered you a bit here. What are you thinking?
Well, okay. Yeah, from that point I see, but with the whole what Nino said about the your legacy, like when you die, you leave the work that you've done for your whole life for someone else to continue. That could be like your legacy. So when you die, you do live on in someone else's work.
So I'm trying to home in on what you're saying here. Are we going to go with there is more after death or not? Can we say yes or no?
Can we say 50-50?
Do you want to ask a friend?
You become the plant.
Well, I mean,
so are we going to nail this, or are we going to go with whatever goes?
I guess whatever goes. Really. I mean, you can't
go with Nino. I think he's more confident.
You can't really say for sure, really. I mean, there's no full explanation for this all, but it's just what we believe in, really. I mean, what we think.
Okay, so you're hovering with I can make whatever I think reality. If I believe it, it'll happen.
In a way, yeah.
I like you. Okay.
I think you can use an anecdote there. Until I was 11, I still believed in Santa. So in a way, you can believe whatever you like, and as long as you believe it, that's true. And I believed in Santa Claus until I found out one day that Santa Claus didn't exist. So in a way, it's kind of like, you believe whatever you want, because, up until the day you die, you can believe that you're going to go to heaven, and that's what's going to happen. But you could die and turn into nothing, but you still believe that. So your consciousness when you're alive, that's what happens.
I have a thought that just occurred to me as you were saying that. It sounded to me that you're saying that you can believe what you like, But if it's not true, it's not true. You can believe in Santa, and if it's not true, Santa's not going to come to life. But also the other way occurs, where you can not believe in something or believe that it doesn't exist. That doesn't change reality. It will still happen. Like if you don't believe in traffic and you cross the road, you're still going to be hit with a car.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
reality sounds like reality is what determines whether something is real or not what we think. Would you go with that?
I think reality is, reality is what you make of it. You don't have to see something to believe in it. And
So truth determines what's right and what's wrong, rather than what we think is what's right and what's wrong. You can believe in Santa if you like, it's not going to happen, right? Because the truth dictates the reality. The truth tells you whether Santa exists or not. Ultimately, truth becomes what it is.
yeah,
Right?
100%.
So we're good with that. All right. Now, I'm going to expand your mind a little bit more, because that was very helpful and very, fun, to say the least. Are you open-minded enough to say there is a possibility that heaven and hell could exist?
Yes, absolutely.
I guess yes. I mean, from like what you read in the Bible and all these religions and stuff, they all have their own version of what heaven and hell is like. So whether
What's interesting, sorry Ethan for interrupting, is that they all appear to agree on one thing, heaven and hell.
And like-
That appears to be a common theme across all of them, right?
some shape of God as well, yeah.
And God. The three things we can be very sure about is, or maybe four, God, the devil, heaven and hell. That seems to be a common kind of theme across whatever religion you're looking at.
Yeah.
Apart from those who don't believe in reality, like Hinduism or something like that. So are you open-minded enough to take that as a possibility?
I'd say it's possible. There's enough people alive that believe it. And I say, if you believe something strongly enough, it doesn't matter whether it's true or it's not, because we'll find out when we die. That's the matter of the fact. But I believe that anything is possible. But I choose to believe what I choose to believe, whereas somebody else can. We're allowed to believe whatever we like, and ultimately we'll find out.
Ethan, would you go with that?
Yeah, I mean, you can't really doubt what people believe in. If they choose to believe in, that's up to them. But you can't. No one can really say for sure until there is hard proof. But until then, it's up to whatever people believe in.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So we can take that a little further. If heaven and hell exists, where do you think you'd go when you die? Let's just, first of all, we agreed there is more to life than what we're living now. So you called it conscience, but it could be a spirit. And Ethan, you were kind of 50-50. We'll go with that. So bearing that in mind, so it's a small step to believe possibly there could be heaven or hell. Where do you think you would go if there is such a place as heaven and hell? Be as honest as you can.
See, okay, so the perception of heaven and hell, from what I know from movies, comics, books and whatnot, hell is different for everybody. It's what the worst, the darkest things that could possibly happen to you. So that just goes to, your fears, the things that...
Would that be like your worst nightmare?
Yeah, exactly, your worst nightmare.
I would consider that a place where hell would be, the worst nightmare, yeah?
So it's just the things that ultimately are the opposite of what you are, and the things you believe in, your morals, whereas heaven...
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite,
And where would you go? I'm going to move on and ask you the same question in a minute. In a nutshell, if heaven existed and it's a good place, and hell existed and it's a real bad place, where would you think you would go briefly?
What, in heaven?
Yeah, heaven or hell. Where would you consider yourself good enough to go to heaven?
No.
That's very humble of you.
No, I wouldn't. From what I know of the Bible and from what religious groups preach, I don't believe I'd...
You're in trouble.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, gay people go to hell. So, I believe strongly that I'm a good person, but from what I know in the Bible, I'm bad.
You're trouble. You're going down.
Yeah.
And Ethan, where are you going?
Unsure to
You're
say.
gonna hell
really.
together.
You're not going to leave him going to hell alone, are you?
Go together.
It's kind of like it's unsure to say, because like surely the verdict will be when you're on your deathbed, like all your life comes flashing before your eyes, and then you get judged for what you've done in your life. So until then, I guess not unsure.
Okay, so now the question is, how would you be judged, right? So I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to ask you a quick question. Would you consider yourself to be a good person?
Yes.
And you?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was hesitation there. There was hesitation.
You know what's funny, right, is that Ethan was most sure about answering this question than any other question I've asked him. So well done, Ethan.
Thanks.
Okay, so we're gonna make a quick test, and before we start, so that you don't know I'm not judging you, I failed the test. Okay, so not coming from a judgmental point of view, you guys will be as bad as me or better. Okay.
I hope to be better.
Indeed, let's aim for that.
In a bad way.
So we're gonna find out. We're gonna use the 10 Commandments to find out as a standard. And we're going to ask you, I'm going to start with commandment number 9, which talks about not lying. How many lies have you told in your whole life, would you say, as a guess?
Thousands.
Yeah, millions. Yeah.
I tell lies every day. Did I like my mum's dinner? It was really good, Mum, but no, I didn't like it. It was horrible.
I really appreciate the honesty, because most people would call that a white lie, but at least you were honest enough to say a lie is a lie.
It's a lie. Lies
Exactly.
are lies.
Well done. Okay, so what you call a person who tells a lie? There's a one word for it.
Liar.
Yeah.
A liar. Well done, guys. Well done.
I was thinking there was another complicated word for it, but
I'm a simple guy. We keep this simple, all right? Right, we're going to do another commandment. Have you ever taken something that doesn't belong to you, regardless of its value and how long ago? Are you guilty of that?
Yeah, like library books or DVDs or something like that. Yeah.
A number of people who just, belittle that. Library books, that's bad if you take a library book. Okay, so you're thinking about it. You're thinking, have I taken something? Have you?
Yeah, I have.
So you're guilty as well. What you call a person who takes something that doesn't belong to them?
I guess a thief.
Thief.
Yeah.
I'm a thief.
Well, actually, to be technically true, you're a lying thief.
I'm a lying thief.
It's worse.
It's not going good, right? It's not going. I tell you what, we'll do 2 more. I guess 10 Commandments is too many, and you don't want to go down that far, right?
We've already done 2 that are bad. So.
So we're going to do 2 more. Okay, this one gets a lot of people as well. Have you ever taken God's name in vain? Oh my God, JC, when you're angry or surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of using a 4-letter filth word, you reduce God's name down to that, as if it was a swear word. And he calls that blasphemy. It's a big deal in God's eyes. He says, I won't hold him guiltless who takes my name in vain. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. We'll do the last one. Jesus said, we could stop at 3, couldn't we? Jesus said, if you as much as look at another person and have lustful thoughts, you committed adultery with that person in your heart. Would you say you've ever looked at a person and you had lustful thoughts?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
You say that like it was obvious, of course, yeah, right?
well, yeah.
Well, you see a hunk on the beach, I ain't gonna not look.
So obviously you are guilty of that one, agreed?
Yeah.
So I'm going to summarize this quickly. Let's not go any further, right? You're going down, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so by own admission, and I'm not judging you, like I said, I've broken all commandments. You're lying, thieving, blasphemer, and an adulterer at heart. And if I want to go further, like for example, the 5th commandment, have you always honored your parents and listened to what they said?
No.
You're going to say, no. Okay, so it goes worse, right? There's nothing, not a single commandment, if you go through them, we're all guilty of them, right? So if you appear before God and he judge you by that standard, innocent or guilty?
Guilty.
Every honest person would say,
If I say sorry, I'm not guilty.
no, you can be guilty and say sorry, right?
Okay, I can be both. I'll do both.
You have to be guilty first.
I'll say sorry then.
Otherwise, there's no point of saying sorry for something you're not guilty of, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, now, if God was to uphold justice, what would he do with a guilty person? Man, you've got to be even more honest now. You know how honest you've been so far and it's hurt? Okay, you got to be a little bit more honest now. What would he do with a guilty person?
Well, from what I know of God, she, they don't seem like a bad thing, It's not like they're gonna just kill me, I mean, they can send us down to hell, but, they may help us repent.
Okay, so you're hoping there is a way out, but at this stage, if we were honest, it's not going to be heaven, right?
No. No.
It's going to go down. It's not going to be.
No.
With this one, I know it's going to be really uncomfortable, but tell me honestly, if it turned out to be true, would that concern you?
Yeah.
Of course it will.
Yeah.
Me too, man. I wouldn't.
I am going down.
You don't want that, do you? Nobody wants that, and neither do I. Neither do I. So I've got some good news. I know it all sounded really terrible news so far, but let's do some good news now. You see, you and I, we're all guilty. We've broken God's laws, violated his commandments. Man, we're criminals in God's eyes because we've not upheld that standard, right? If you go before a judge and you've broken the law, the judge is bound by the letter of the law to pass judgment, and it's got to be a judgment that's going to be appropriate for the crime that you committed. That means in God's eyes that's hell, because that's his prison. God's prison is hell. But he's also loving and merciful and forgiving. So how does he reconcile those two together? This is what he does. Because you've broken his commandments, you're going to go to hell. But because he loves you, he comes down himself and pays for the fine himself. Jesus, 2,000 years ago, laid down his life willingly on the cross, died a horrible death, rose again on the third day, because this way now, because of that, when you appear before him on Judgment Day, he can dismiss your case because somebody else paid for your fine. So imagine if you broke the law and you stole a car, and there is a fine on your head because that car was expensive and you have to pay £100,000 to let you go, and you don't have £100,000, and somebody steps in and pays for the fine on your behalf. Suddenly, even though you're guilty, the judge can let you go. And this is the same in here. You got to turn to God and say, you got to do two things to receive this free gift. You've got to repent, to say sorry to God, be remorse about what you've done, and turn away from them. That's number one, saying sorry, which is what you were talking about. Remember, you said I should be able to say sorry?
I remember.
And then the second thing you've got to do is don't put your trust in yourself. Put your trust in the work that Jesus did on the cross. If you put your trust in yourself, you're not going to make it. In fact, you knew it right from the word go. When I said, where do you think you're going to go? You knew where you're going to go, right?
Yeah.
But if you put your trust in the work that Jesus did, because of what he did, not because of what you did, you will be guaranteed to go to heaven. So basically, by saying sorry and putting your trust in the work that Jesus did, he pays for your fine, you go into heaven. Not because you're innocent, but because your fine has been paid for. Makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course it does, doesn't it? And that's what the Bible talks about. It says, man, we're guilty. God is so good, he paid for the fine. It will be foolish of us to turn it away and pretend it didn't happen or pretend that it's not true. Because it's a gift. You know, on that day when you appear before him, you're going to say, oh man, I'm in trouble. Now you want a savior, and God has given it to you. But you can't do it on the day, you've got to do it now. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Be honest with me. I mean, after we leave, I'm not going to see you again, and you're going to have to deal with you and your conscience and with God on your own. Nothing to do with me. Agreed?
Agreed.
So, would you think about it? Would you give it some thought and get right with God? Because it sounds like a very important and precious thing to do. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
No.
Which way? Talk to me.
I don't agree. I mean, like, you know,
Ethan disagrees with you.
he can. I mean, from the beginning, I said, you know, I believe in what I believe in, and you know, you say about paying now. I'll pay when I'm ready. You know, I'll die hopefully in a very long time, and if that day comes, when that day comes, then I'll pay. But
what do you mean by that? Do you mean you'll be happy to go to hell? I'm just trying to work out what you mean by saying I'll pay.
I just mean, like, I don't believe in heaven or hell. I believe in going to the earth and becoming part of nature. That's my belief, and that's what I hope's going to happen. So the question to me is like asking a vegetarian if they'd eat pig if they were on a desert island. To me, it won't happen.
You know, you said earlier to me that what we believe doesn't change anything.
No.
And
exactly.
Reality changes it, right?
Yeah.
And if this is the reality, but you said, I believe when we die nothing happens, that won't change anything. What would really happen is whatever is real, whatever is true. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I completely agree. But as I said...
And one more thing, I'm sorry, Nino. You said also, I believe that's what's going to happen, and I choose to believe that.
Yeah.
But isn't that dying and ending, isn't that a worse predicament than ending up in heaven? It's just that you seem to be insisting on something that's worse. Why would you do that rather than something that's more that's better, you know?
I think you're misinterpreting my words. I don't believe nothing's going to happen, because as I said, you know, I don't believe consciousness can disappear. So whether, you know, you go somewhere else, you go into the earth, you become part of something bigger, but I never said anything about moving on. If that makes
the only difference between us, and ultimately, we're not going to see each other again. I'd love to see you again, for sure. But you're a nice guy, for sure. But ultimately, I'm doing this because I care. And if I knew that this is reality and it's the truth, I'm going to do everything I can to change your mind. And remember, we're not far off. You're saying that something will exist in the afterlife. And I'm saying, I'm agreeing with you. But I'm saying that if this afterlife has such, because conscience and spirit just proves that there is a spirit giver. All the difference is that I believe the spirit giver cares. And that spirit giver cares so much, like a judge that cares will make sure there is such thing as a prison. And if there is such a thing as a prison, there will be such thing as no prison, which will be heaven in this case. And all I'm saying, Nino, is that if that thing is real, then you don't want to miss out. You don't want to turn around and say no because I don't want to, And what do I gain from this? I have nothing. I'm not asking for your money. I'm not asking you to join my church. I just want you to know the truth. Will that make sense? And I really care for you, man. You look like a nice guy, and man, God is great. He's given us a person, a savior that will rescue us from this predicament. How foolish would it be of us to reject it because we're stubborn, because we have this understanding that we're not willing to change, yet God went to such a length to come down and rescue us. You know what I'm saying? That's ultimate love. No one will die for somebody else. You will die you wouldn't even die for a friend, never mind an enemy. As far as God is concerned, we're his enemies because we're criminals. Went to that length. Turning around and saying no thank you would be the worst thing you would think of happening on the day of judgment. You wouldn't want that. So, and you don't know when you're going to die, Nino. I mean, you don't know. I mean, if you knew you're going to die tomorrow, your answer will be different. You'd say, man, I want to be right. I'm not taking any risks. Biggest gamble ever in your life. To turn around and make a claim like that you're not sure about. So, hey man, be right with God. Do it today. You don't know if you got tomorrow. Why risk it? Make sense?
Yeah.
Think about it.
I'll think about it.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Ethan. And you, Nino. It's been a pleasure talking.
You too.
Thank you.